Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to the philosophy of mind. We want to look at human being. You're made of matter, but you also have something else called the mind. We want to ask ourselves, how does the matter that includes what your body is made up of, including the brain, how does it become conscious? This is another of my videos on philosophical challenging ideas that I think everyone should know. Right now, as you listen to me, you're having experience. You can hear my voice. You may be sitting in a room. You may be thinking about what I'm saying. You may agree. You may disagree with my views. But here is something strange. Everything you're experiencing right now exists inside your consciousness awareness, your conscious awareness. The room, the sounds, your memories, your emotions, your thoughts, your sense of being you. And that raises one of the deepest questions in philosophy. How can matter that is your body and your brain become conscious? To know that right now you have emotions, you have memories, you are in a room, you can think, and you are you. That is the question that we want to look at. How are you conscious? What does it really mean to be conscious? Your brain weighs roughly, I'm not sure, but the last time I read, I think it was something like 3 pounds. It's made of cells. It's made of proteins. It's made of chemicals. It has electrical signals. Nothing inside your brain looks like a thought, looks like a belief, looks like a memory. Nothing inside your brain can we associate with the red color, yellow color, or any of the colors in the rainbow. Yet somehow, this physical object produces an entire inner world that is your consciousness. How does the brain do that? The philosophy of mind studies the nature of consciousness, thought, identity, and mental experience. All these are things that we assume happen in your brain. Keyword, we assume. So philosophy of the mind asks such questions as, what is a thought? What is consciousness? What makes you the same person over time? Can a machine ever truly think? Now that we're in the time when we are thinking, we are making intelligent machines that are somewhat supposed to be able to perform activities like a human being. Can those machines ever be truly a human being? In fact, I have a paper on whether machines can think. I think I published sometime last year. So we ask ourselves, do minds exist independently of brains, or mind and the brain are the same thing? If we go into brain, do we see the mind? If the mind is the brain is a physical thing. Is the mind also a physical thing? These questions sit at the intersection of philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, and artificial intelligence. One of the most famous answers to the questions that I'm just raising came from René Descartes. René Descartes believed mind and the body are fundamentally different. Your body, that includes the brain, and your mind are two different things. Your body, which is matter, is physical. Your mind is not physical. We can measure your brain. We can weigh your brain. We can scan the brain. But we can never measure your thoughts, your beliefs, your memory. We can't put your consciousness under a microscope. For this reason, René Descartes concluded that the mind and the body must be different substance. And this separation of mind and the body became what we call in philosophy and psychology dualism. But dualism also creates another problem. If the mind and the body are as different as we've just said, how do they then interact? How does a physical thing interact with a non-physical thing? We know where the brain is. When we go into the brain, we don't see the mind. We don't see the thoughts. We don't see the memories. We don't see fear. We don't see anxiety. We don't see happiness. But that's what we have. So how does this immaterial thing called the mind interact with the physical thing called your body? How does the mind command your hand to move? How is my mind right now getting me activated to be able to make the sounds that I'm doing? How does the physical injury create mental pain? Why is it that when you're tired in the brain, your body also responds? And when you're tired with your body, your mind also responds. The more philosophers examine dualism, the more difficult the questions became. Today, most scientists and many philosophers have taken a different position from dualism, and they have settled on a theory called physicalism. Physicalism argues that the mind is what the brain does. In other words, the mind is just the activities of the brain. So whatever we find when we do a brain scan and we see the mind in action, that's what the activities of the brain are actually the mind. In that sense, thoughts, emotions, memories, consciousness all emerge from the physical processes inside your brain. You damage a part of your brain, you're likely to lose, or it changes your personality. You damage other regions, then you might change, or your memory might disappear. You change the brain chemistry and mood change. The evidence strongly links that the mind, this kind of evidence strongly links the mind to the brain. Yet, one enormous problem still remains. Even if we explain every neuron, every electrical signal, every chemical interaction, we still face the question. We still have another question. Why does any of it feel like something? Any of these specific things feel like something? Why is there an inner experience at all? Why isn't the brain simply processing information in complete darkness? Why does the processing of information seem something happening that's only accessible to you? Why is there consciousness of self-experiencing reality? So for example, right now you're processing and experiencing the reality that's my voice. Why is that phenomenon possible? Philosopher David Chalmers calls this problem the hard problem of consciousness. Science can explain how the brain processes information. Science can explain our behavior. Science can explain perception. But explaining why there is subjective experience remains one of the greatest unresolved mysteries in human knowledge. What it means to be you experiencing this video is something that we can't really explain. Now consider another strange question. How do you know anyone else is conscious? You cannot experience their consciousness. You cannot access it. You know that you are conscious because you experience your own thoughts, your own beliefs, your own memories, your own tastes, your own aspirations. But everyone else, that's not accessible to you. You see their behavior, you hear words, you observe their actions, but you never directly experience another person's mind. You only infer from watching their actions, and then you infer that the mind exists. And even them, they just also infer from your actions. So philosophy of the mind asks, what makes you the same person over time? Remember when you were a child, then you became a teenager, then maybe you're in your 20s, some of you maybe you may be in your 30s or headed even to 40s. What is that's persistent over time? Is it your body? But your body changes. Is it your memory? Your memory changes. Is it your beliefs? Your beliefs are ever changing. Is it your personality? Your personality actually also changes. Then what is it that makes you you over time, when you're over 10 years, over your 20s, over your 30s, even until you get old? What is that makes you you? What we call you that's persistent, the one that we hold accountable, the one that we sign business deals with, the ones that we say, let's meet next week. Somehow you think of yourself as the same person, even though a lot of things are changing in you. So what exactly remains constant? It's not your body, it's not your memory, it's not your consciousness. What is that thing? These questions become even more important in our time because we are trying to associate the human consciousness to machines, to artificial intelligence. AI now can write, it can translate language, it can diagnose disease, it can create art, it holds conversation. You can actually brainstorm with AI. You can ask it to plan even your life. It can remind you things. But does it really understand you? Does the machine think? Is the machine conscious? Or is it merely processing information without any inner experience? And if one day the machine claims to be conscious, how would we know whether it is actually conscious? Since we don't even know ourselves whether the next person is conscious, we only infer. In fact, you also don't know yourself what does it mean for you to be conscious. So how can we transfer what to other things, non-human, the things that we humans, we are not even aware what it is and how it is, even when it is? Perhaps the strangest thing about philosophy of the mind is this, that the mind, it's actually the mind trying to understand the mind. In other words, the mind is trying to study the mind. The very thing that we are trying to understand or to investigate is actually the thing in doing the investigation. We use tools to investigate. A telescope does not study itself. A microscope does not analyze itself. But here we have consciousness turning inwards to ask the question, what am I? That's something that should shock you. The philosophy of mind reminds us that despite all our scientific theories and advances, one mystery remains. And this is the mystery that remains extraordinary, is very close to us. The mystery is that every thought, every emotion, every dream, every memory, every experience are something that happened to us exclusively. We understand it from first person, and we can't even understand it from another person except that we only infer it based on ourselves. The mystery is not something that's out there in the universe. This mystery is a thing that's you experiencing the universe. And therefore, the deepest question may not be, what is the universe made of? It may be, what is the thing that asks question about itself and even the universe? And that was a video on philosophy of the mind, another of the philosophical challenging ideas that I think everyone should know.